Hey guys, welcome back to Parkitect. And today's episode is going to be about the Coaster B diorama darkride challenge. So this video should have came out, I don't know, in the month of November, but now it's December. And this ride was somewhat more difficult to complete, or this diorama in general, this challenge has been more difficult. So Coaster B did extend the deadline for this build to December 15th, so as of this recording is the 11th, so I finally finished it like a couple days ago, and I've been going through my footage, and I have about like, I don't know, 14 to 15 hours of footage that I'm going to split up and hopefully make 4-part videos of the dark ride that I'm working on. So this is going to be part 1 of the Wally dark ride. So if you already noticed on the thumbnail or the title that this is a dark ride themed to Wally, and this idea for it to be Wally has been, I don't know, floating in my head for years because I thought Wally deserves a dark ride. It's funny because I made a concept art for this ride back in, I think, junior high. I made an art piece of like a ride vehicle, what it could look like, and then maybe some of the props and the station platform and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny how we've come to now to this point, and I was able to reproduce it somewhat in Parkitect with the trackless dark ride that we have now as a mod. And one of the vehicles was actually a perfect choice, was the Star Wars Rise of Resistance vehicles. I just had to paint them brown and yellow, and it kind of worked out to be my perfect ride vehicle, even though they are kind of still look like Star Wars, but changing the paint really did help in this case. So I was just like, okay, I'm gonna just try this out. And yeah, this challenge was, this one was a hard one because it required you to decorate almost every single aspect of the ride, and without covering up, because honestly I would have picked 1 or 2 scenes, made cutouts in the building, and then the rest of it would have been covered. But that's not what this challenge was. The challenge was to make an actual legit dark ride with a storyline included. So the first step was to watch the movie. So I've watched the movie at least, I don't know, I want to say 25 plus times. And I had to go figure out how to scale down the movie in about a 3-minute ride. I think it's about a 3-minute ride. I haven't checked in a while. So my first objective was to build said station, and I felt like the station should be a B&L superstore. I think that fits perfectly in the universe of Wally, because I'm also thinking that this has to sit in a land of some sort at a Disney theme park. So the whole area is Earth during the junk phase, so with all the junk and the cube junks everywhere, all that stuff, like everything of that will be in the land. And so that's the area you walk up into, you see all the junk, and you see the B&L store, and then the name of the ride, Wally to the Rescue. And that's how I think it made sense to make the entrance area and the queue the superstore, and also find a way to cover up the pesky stations, because the stations are 3 wide and they're quite large. So I felt like maybe actually building pillars actually worked out. And I looked at a whole bunch of screenshots from the movie. I literally was on Disney Plus watching the movie, and then I would pause it, take a screenshot, zoom in, take a screenshot, and then continue the movie. And then I did that a whole bunch of times for different scenes that I was focusing on. And I think I got the feel of the warehouse. So this diorama would not be possible without all the mods that were involved, because there's a lot of little details that I had to use, especially like from resort tech with the shelves I needed, the transport tech with all the cars that I wanted, and other things of that nature. So there's a lot of little pieces that I honestly could have made out of shapes, but it would have been taking me way too long. So mods was very helpful in this case. And again, it's just how the behavior of this type of challenge went. So on to just figuring out all the rest of the stuff. But before I actually did build the station, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I did pre-plan where all the scenes were by putting down text signs, typing out what I wanted in a quick little phrase, and then went from there. So pre-planning was a big, big like thing to do. There was no way I could have done most of this right off the cuff. There's just not possible. So most of it was pre-planned, and I did like from the moment this was announced, was the beginning of November. Wally was the to go. I had 2 other ideas, but they didn't come late. They came later after some of the dark ride. The Trackless Dark Ride got some additional vehicles, like there's a taxi and then there's a honeypot or something. I had some ideas for those 2 things, but that didn't happen at all. So it continues on to just be Wally Dark Ride, and that's basically the gist of it. But as you can just see here, I'm just working on just making sure that the station looks somewhat believable and matches my art style that I'm going for, and then it matches the movie. So that's kind of the basic gist of what is happening here. The other thing that I knew going in was that I wanted to make sure that the building was still visible, like the actual show building of the Dark Ride was visible, and I wanted to make sure that there was cutouts and all these things. So that was also planned, and to make sure that happened, because oh my god, there's things I could hide honestly with just covering up the building or just covering up the little cutaways, but that would have beaten the purpose, because the point of this challenge is that this ride has to be viewed at night, and you have to see all the scenes, and it has to be somewhat cohesive to a storyline. So that was the most difficult part. So let me explain how the ride is laid out movie-wise, because I hope that the scenes that I made portray that, because I have I'm second guessing myself on some of the scenes that I made that might not present themselves well. So I want to explain it here how the movie goes. So the movie starts exactly after Eve has already landed on Earth, and Wally and Eve are already doing their shenanigans around the city. So that's where it basically begins. So the ride goes out of the E&L Superstore into the deserted Earth, and you see Wally and Eve, and then Eve finds the plant, and that leads onto the first like screen scene, or the first section where the ride stops. Because in how I think Dan Ambley built the ride is that there's like little pockets of like show scenes that the vehicle stop and then turn around and leave. There's like 3 of them. So the first one is the rocket scene with Wally, and so Eve is being picked up by the rocket and being brought back to the Axiom, and Wally is now going to go rescue Eve. That was the point. That's why the ride's called Wally to the Rescue. And then the next scene is it goes into light speed formation just to do a transition into the first pair of elevators that drops. And then those elevators goes on to the next thing, into the actual hangar of the Axiom, where they find out, oh, Eve has a plant. And that goes on to the next scene, which would be the Axiom Bridge, where we see the captain, and Eve is trying to give the plant to the captain. And then Otto finds out. And then we do fight Otto. And then the last scene would be to put the plant in the holodeck to then transport back to Earth. And then ends up with Wally and Eve planting the plant in the ground. So it's kind of a very quick version of Wally. I hope that made sense, because that's kind of how I had to basically cut out a lot of things from the movie. Like, I had to cut out even Wally flying through space with the fire extinguisher. I mean, honestly, I would have loved to have made that scene, but it didn't fit right in how the layout was and how the layout of the ride was. So basically the ride's layout dictated my storyline a little bit, but I still had to make it somewhat cohesive. So I also skipped the scene where Wally gets destroyed, or Wally gets damaged by Otto. I completely removed that scene too, or the junk scene. So things like that have been removed, but the ride still presents the beginning, middle, and end. So the beginning is Wally and Eve. Eve gets taken, and then Wally has to chase Eve to help her, and then while that's happening, the plant is involved, and so then kind of ends the ride with the plant being saved, and then everybody back on Earth. So that's kind of the gist of the whole movie in this ride, because there was a prime ride to follow that helped me with basically the story order is Monsters Inc. Mike and Sully to the Rescue at Disney's California Adventure. And that ride actually starts off with when Mike and Sully have Boo and the city finds out, and then the CDC comes and invades the town. So it basically starts at that point of the movie. So things like that, you don't have to have the full thing. So the rest of the ride is just Mike and Sully taking Boo back to her door. That's the gist of it. Very simple. And I think that also helps in, if you make a very simple storyline, you have a direct path on what you need to do, and then you can focus on little details, especially in all the sets and buildings and things like that. So I hope that made sense as I rambled about how my storyline kind of worked, but I haven't really talked about what's on screen because I had to kind of set that up. But right now I'm just building all the basic things that I need for the BNL Superstore, and all the little details and things like that, and the shelving, the dirt piles, and the destruction. I like this pile of cubes I did to simulate junk without really going crazy with it. So cubes actually helped out, and changing them different tones of browns helped out a lot. Having paper on the ground really sells the idea that this is abandoned and there's dirt everywhere, so that helped out a lot. I could have kept this building open and not have a roof on it, but I felt like you needed the roof to kind of sell the idea more, and then the rest of the building was kind of left open in places so you can see the dark ride and stuff like that. Also, funny thing about this challenge, that lighting was very important, this one as well, because this ride's going to be rated in the dark, so that was fun to figure out all the little lighting details and to light things up. And I actually used some actual dark ride tricks in this build. I'll probably talk about in like the next part of this video when we get closer to the actual scene building, because right now this was day one and I was just focused on, okay, station needs to go first, because I wasn't going to go out of order. I actually built this ride in the order of the movie how I set it, so I didn't go backwards or forward or build something in the middle. I actually built it in order. So first was the station, then I did the first scene with Wally and the rocket, and then I went onward on that. So kind of was the focus was to just do station stuff and figure out how legit or not legit, or like how realistic I can make the station look, and kind of help out with that. So that's basically it so far. What other things did I use? I didn't use anything. I don't think I used any newer mods. Let me think here. Oh no, I did use that RTX mod. So this is RTX image mod that helps with the image signs. That actually helps a lot. So they crisp up your images instead of them being so pixelized. That's a cool mod to use. I use that actually a lot in this build. That'll probably be in the next part when we get closer to the scenes, because right now this is just the station platform and figuring out the art style, the look of the building. But I think I got the building quite right, because it has these glass roofs and glass skylights basically, so that it kind of have natural light come into the building. The building itself is lit when it goes at night, so it works still. But I like if you want to look at more details of the ride, I would suggest you actually look at it in daytime, and then you want to see the actual show stuff and the show scenes, you play it at night. So it's kind of, I want to make sure that the ride looks good in both places. Kind of what my philosophy is, and especially in this dark ride type of thing. So right now this is just the first scene. I need to figure out how to make some cityscape and some, what's it called, facades. Yes, facades and stuff and junk. Figuring out my collision, where these vehicles go. But yeah, the mod for Chocolate's Dark Ride is actually a pretty cool mod. I'm already thinking about using it in my next big theme park project after American Adventure, and use it for maybe something. See, if this came out earlier, I would have used this in American Adventure maybe for the last Dark Ride, like the car Dark Ride. But also American Adventure is also supposed to be as modelless as possible, so I don't know. It's kind of iffy, kinda. I don't know. So I want to use this Dark Ride mod in the future. That's the plan. Right now, this challenge has been a headache and fun to do at the same time, because this was the most unique challenges out of the Coaster Bee stuff so far. So hopefully we get more weird challenges in the future, like maybe a log ride, or maybe something even more simpler. I don't know, maybe like a flat ride challenge, but different from... I don't know how you would make it different from the actual Steam one. I don't know. Just brainstorming as I just think here, but right now, as you can see on the screen, I'm just figuring out my walls and my points of view, basically, where the dark ride's going to do, because I'm also trying to imagine in my head what the guests see. Even though the vehicles spin in places where I don't want them spinning, but if I had control of that, I would have made them look at different things, stuff like that. But one of the rules is I couldn't change the spinning outcome for them, because this ride was very finicky apparently by Dan Avley to put together, and I understand that, so I won't. There was no way I could have touched it, but hey, it is what it is. But it did pretty well. I like all the aspects of this challenge so far. It was quite a refreshing, difficult challenge on my part versus some of the other build challenges. So this took a whopping almost 4 weeks to finish this dark ride, and I still have, to this point, 3 more parts. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Let you watch the rest of this time lapse, but I want to thank my Patreons for supporting me. If you want to support me, you can. There's a link to my Patreon in the description. Part 2 will come out hopefully in the next week or so, and then we'll go from there. Thank you for watching. Bye.